Both of these questions rely heavily on your note-taking skills. In order to be good with note-taking, you have to make sure you're good with active listening. Organizing your notes is what matters the most. Hello everyone, welcome to Alpha PTE's video. This is Fatima. Hope you all are doing well and hope your preparation is going on well. Today's video is about note-taking skills. Since note-taking is so important in PTE exam, I've decided to make a video to help you understand how note-taking works and what we can do to improve the note-taking skills. Before we start about note-taking skills, I want to talk about the questions where note-taking is important. Firstly, let's start from the speaking module. It is retell lecture, of course, and summarize group discussion. Both of these questions rely heavily on your note-taking skills. Then comes your summarize spoken text, and if you have decided to take notes, write from dictations. But mainly retell lecture, summarize group discussion, and summarize spoken text. So in these three question types in PTE academic, note-taking works. In PTE core, note-taking is helpful for just summarize spoken text because there is no retell lecture and summarize group discussion in PTE core. Okay, so let's start talking about that. Now, to improve your note-taking skills, focus on strategies that helps you improve your speed and help you capture high value content. Okay, now note taking is primarily, like I said, for speaking as well as listening sections. So master shorthand abbreviation. First thing is use shorthand like symbols, arrow for increase and decrease, one or two numbers for write instead of writing one or two, and like BC for because, and sign instead of writing AND, and stuff like that. Apart from that, in order to be good with note taking, you have to make sure you're good with active listening. So first, familiarize yourself with different kinds of accents. First thing, familiarize yourself with different kind of accents. Work on improving your active listening, the skill of being able to listen and understand and to be able to write at the same time. Now, you will only be able to take good notes if you understand what the speaker is talking about. Then you will know which word is more important and which words are not important. And then comes the actual part of starting to take notes. When you start taking notes, then you use symbols. Then focus more on consonants, like more on words which are having information instead of connecting verbs and prepositions and stuff like that. So avoid all those, because especially in retell lecture and summarize group discussion, you don't have any marks for grammar. So avoid unnecessary, unimportant words like to, am, is, are, for, with, and all those, but work more towards important words like names of the places and stuff like that. Then develop a system of academic terms, for example, that you can INFO instead of writing information, info, NV for environment, and stuff. Then focusing on when you're focusing on the audio, these are the things that you have to keep in mind when you're typing, when you're writing, when you're taking notes. What you need to keep in mind when you're taking notes: using shorthand, using words, avoiding prepositions and unimportant words, focusing more on important and value added words, and then lastly using acronyms like short forms like info, environment, and stuff like that. Then for retell lecture and for summarize group discussion, focus on short phrases like 2 to 3 words instead of writing sentences. Okay, because if you're writing complete sentences, you will not be able to capture good amount of content. So identify the signal words like firstly, however, and then you add information which is providing the main topic. Okay, Focus on nouns and verbs. Okay, the key words that carry the most meaning, noun and verb, typically the subjects, the actions, rather than fillers and auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary verbs like can, could, should, and stuff like that. Then you can use arrows or bullet points to to show ideas, especially in a summarized group discussion where there is a lot of information, a lot of ideas are there. You can use bullet points for each speaker and you can show the cause and effect. Then layout, organizing your notes is what matters the most. So write in columns, like vertically. Okay, taking notes in a vertical column is useful for maintaining flow. It makes easier to read, especially when you're reading top to bottom, and especially in retail lecture and summarized group discussion. So this is really important. Then try to write only 1 point per line. When you're taking bullet notes, try to write only 1 phrase per line. Start new line for every new phrase, only 3 to 4 words in one line, the next 2 to 3 words, the next 2 to 3 words. This prevents your notes from becoming like a huge wall of text and doesn't look overwhelming. So it's not difficult to go through them when you have 10 minutes of preparation time. Then don't erase anything during the audio. Okay, so if something is not written, just move on, cancel it and move on. Don't sit and erase and try to write something on your own, because it is just wasting the audio time and the audio will not be played again, replayed. All right, then when it comes to practicing, now how do you practice so you achieve all this? Like I said, first thing, active listening. Second thing, after you practice a task, review your notes, look back at your notes. If you can't reconstruct the main idea from there, and if your shorthand is not, you're not able to understand what you have written, it was either too brief or too messy. So you can then check with the actual passage, keep your notes in front of you and see what you have written, what you have missed, what could have been done better. Mock tests. Use mock test simulation. Even at home, try to have an erasable notepad and the marker, the actual marker that you have in your PTE exam. You will easily find it on Officeworks. All right, so use that, or you can laminate a plain paper that will become your erasable notepad. Then that will stimulate your actual test environment, so you get physically comfortable with these tools. Okay, make sure you refine these skills by considering and exploring different note-taking patterns. That is helpful for your own benefit. Everybody is different. I know a lot of you that that are not comfortable with shorthand, because I knew a few students, when they write in shorthand, they forget what they've written. Okay, arrows and stuff like that. So it doesn't work for everybody. There is no one strategy that works for everybody. So always try the strategy in the practice first, in the mock exam, and then if it works perfectly, then move on, take that strategy to your exam hall. Okay, explore different note taking systems, like practicing with various audio materials, fast audios, slow audios, short audios, long audios. That is going to improve your ability to quickly capture key information. Always experiment to find what works for you best under pressure, especially under timed condition like a mock test. In practice sessions, you will not be able to understand whether if this note taking is working or not. So make sure you're planning well during your mock exam. If you can't take full mock test, take sectional mock test. Okay. In PTE, these questions require you to quickly process spoken information, to recall key details, different ideas, and many test takers struggle because you either write too much or miss important points, or you fail to structure your notes effectively. So it's really important that you develop efficient note taking skills, and especially for like these 3 questions: read a lecture, summarize group discussions, and summarize spoken text. Okay. Now a lot of students say, why is note taking so important? Now note taking is important because you cannot rely on your memory to remember key points. So it helps you get good content, it helps you identify the main ideas and the supporting ideas, it helps you recognize the important points and help you transition from one point to another point, and it avoids distraction. When you're not taking notes and you're only listening to the audio, you are highly likely to get distracted, so you can't form your own summary. Without structured notes, it's easy to forget crucial details, and it helps you manage your time effectively. Now for summarized spoken text, there is a slight different approach. Like read a lecture and summarize group discussion, we can go for whatever we discuss. But for summarized spoken text, understanding the main ideas and key details from the lecture is important, because you have to write a summary. Here you are not going to speak like how you are going to speak for read a lecture and summarize group discussion. For summarized spoken text, you have to write 50 to 70 words. Okay, so make sure you focus on taking sentences, like more context from one part, from the important part. First identify where they are starting to talk about the topic, then write the main idea. Try to capture as much content as possible from the main idea. The main idea is the topic. For example, they're talking about this is very common, like globalization, how globalization is doing this. First sentence should always be about the main idea. So first sentence you have to take it from the audio. It's okay if you're missing the rest, but try to capture everything they've said about the main idea, at least good amount of content from the sentence. Secondly, after you've captured the main idea, then focus on picking phrases about supporting points. Then towards the end, focus on the conclusions, how they are ending the audio. Okay, if they are showing contrasts, you can keep a note, but you can't write everything. Sometimes the audios are too long, so you have to structure yourself. Okay, I am not able to put everything in my summary, so I'm just going to focus on my main idea, supporting idea, and the conclusion. That's it. For example, they're talking about economic growth, unemployment. So what is economic growth, why it is causing unemployment, then what is the speaker talking about, and how they're concluding. Maybe they're giving a solution in the conclusion. Alright, now here the mistake is, it's not read a lecture, summarize group discussion where you have to keep taking short phrases, short phrases, short phrases. No, here you need proper correct notes. So instead of writing too much and too many unimportant words, focus on getting the main idea properly, then the supporting ideas and key details, and then conclusion. You don't need too much, you need the correct amount, the right notes. All right, then disorganized notes are not going to help you in summarized spoken text. So make sure you structure your notes properly, you capture important information, and then form a summary based on that. Because other than that, for detailed lecture and for summarized group discussion, focus on what we have discussed, like phrases, avoiding the connectors, focusing more on nouns and stuff like that, but it's a little different for summarized spoken text. So yeah, note taking, make sure you keep practicing until you start getting good amount of content. Good amount of content means for retail lecture you need to have at least 40 plus words, proper words. For summarized group discussion, obviously you need more than that, you can have enough. For summarized spoken text, like I said, you should have one complete sentence which is giving the main idea and several phrases to support the idea, and at least 1 to 2 phrases to conclude the idea. Alright, so that's about today's video, guys. If you like our videos, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you very soon in the next one. Until then, take care. Bye.